Nuking with Sirius and Orion is so easy that you don't even really need to think about it. Let's quickly hop into the build here. So something you have to keep in mind with this is that each Warframe is modded separately. Okay, excluding the 4, each of them have different sets of abilities that do different things, making swapping between them more and more important. When you're not piloting one of the Warframes, the other one is functioning a bit like Umbra or like a Spectre, running around doing a little bit of damage here and there with the weapons. I've seen that it's maybe not as effective as a normal Spectre, but that could just be a bug. If we quickly hop into the abilities, each of the Warframes have pretty similar first abilities. So coronal ejection for Sirius and gravitic / even for Orion. And what these are is they're your pocket sand abilities. They're a little thing that you can do to do a little bit of extra damage, maybe proc some elements, heat for coronal ejection, and I believe it is /gravitic/. Second abilities, Jade Stars. These are little motes that when you do weapon or ability damage, they shoot out and they do a little bit more damage. These, when you cast it, go on both Sirius and Orion, which means when you eventually end up in your ultimate, you're doing, I think it's 7 motes per person, so 14. A little bit of extra damage shooting off here and there. For Orion, their ability is essentially a glorified Loki decoy. And what I mean by that is you put a shield on yourself, and then when you're shot, you put down a decoy and it draws fire. It's a bit meh. It's not something I'm super interested in personally. You have it up so that you can build your constellation. To go over what I just said, constellation, it's part of their passive. So every time you cast an ability, if you look in the bottom right there, they build up these little stars, which each one of them, you can only do 2 from each Warframe, and then so on, they'll build up, and then you can use your 4th ability, either at any stage, but I recommend personally waiting until you've reached all 7 stars in Constellation. We'll get to that in a moment. As for third abilities, Sirius has Light Sanctuary, which is this big bubble that heals you and grows over time. If you go down in it, you get rezzed. It's pretty good. Orion has Doom, or Event Horizon as it's called. And this is your CC. This is what you're using to bring the area together so that you can press 4 and beat the shit out of them much, much easier. And then finally, you have Celestial Clash. And Celestial Clash, as you saw in the beginning there, the 2 brothers fight and they do waves of blast damage. Now, the important thing to remember with Celestial Clash is that depending on the attack, so as we see here, when you attack, left click with the circle in the green, that's Sirius. Right click with the triangle in the red, that's Orion. Each time you attack, they uses that Warframe's stats for the blast damage, which means they have to have similar builds, but because of the difference in ability set, you want them to be just different enough that they apply better. So, for example, Orion is built to be a full caster, so he's full strength, full range, right? With Arcane Energizer and Molt Augmented, this helps us push the strength up for Orion so much more, and also helps with the efficiency deficit that we have, meaning that, every time you pick up a little bit of energy, you get a lot. So it starts to not become a problem. You could switch Molt for Crepuscular here, as it does essentially the same thing. When invisible, gain ability strength. On ability strength stacks up to 250 with 1 revive. When you kill people, you can pick and choose. I have Crepuscular on Sirius alongside Molt Augmented, so it's up to you. Sirius, because of his 2nd and 3rd ability, needs a bit more duration. And so if we look over here at Orion, I have got Transient Fortitude, whereas on Sirius, we've swapped that out for Equilibrium. Instead of having Energize, because Energize on Orion, when it procs, can also proc on Sirius, we're instead of going for both Crepuscular and Molt Augmented, and then switching for the energy economy to be Equilibrium instead. This also means that we don't get as much of a duration debuff. And there's a few differences here and there. When using Arcane Crepuscular, I have specifically selected Shade Prime because of its ghost ability. As you can see here, when enemies are within 20 feet, the cloak is sort of the owner attacks. Doesn't get affected by the ability, so you can stay invisible whilst you're ulting. Another reason why we pick Shade is so that we can set them up to be a duplex bond, because Orion and Sirius are going to be casting their abilities all the time. Every time you use energy, you get another Shade floating around doing some damage. So we're also going to have Verglas Prime on here to do a little bit of priming, not a stupid amount, but a little bit that it helps. because everybody needs a little bit of help here and there when it comes to priming enemies. It helps you if you've decided that you just want to chill and use your weapons instead of your abilities. If you're just not feeling it in that moment. Another important thing to consider is their auras. Now, you can't put the same aura on both. They don't stack. So, growing power on Orion is useful, but we can't then put it on Sirius as well to gain that benefit. So instead, we've gone for corrosive projection to get that little bit of armor strip in and help weaken the enemies to our attacks. Now, for Archon Shards, despite the fact that there's 2 warframes here, they've simplified it a bit to make it so that you can only put 1 set of 5 Archon Shards on, because that would be a bit manic if they decided to make it so you had to put on 10, 5 on each. Right, so personally, I've gone for strength and casting speed, as we can see down here. Yes, I've run out of Tauforged Crimson. We're not going to talk about it, meaning the numbers in here aren't exactly accurate. You can push this further if you are able to get hold of Tauforged Shards. Now, I am testing against level 200 plus Steel Path enemies, so realistically, unless you're doing late game Steel Path content, you're not going to need to push this build this far, okay? So don't sweat it if you're missing a few pieces or your mods are underranked, because God knows mine are. Alright, now, as for Helminth options, I personally have picked Raw because it is an AoE ability strength buff, which means that you can apply it to both yourself and Orion at the same time so that your 4th is more powerful. Now, you can choose either your 1st or 2nd ability for Sirius to replace. I personally have replaced the 1st because I don't really feel the need to move around the event horizon as much. So I'd much rather have it on my 1st and keep the little motes of light, but you can pick and choose whichever one. So we're going to have a quick breakdown here of what you do in a standard mission, right? So let's just pop down some enemies. Wonderful. So when you use your 2nd, as you can see, both you and Orion get your motes. You put down your 3rd and boom, there you go. You got your little healing aura. We switch over to Orion. There's your event horizon. And if we just bonk that towards, another thing I forgot to mention is that using your 1st ability on this increases its duration. So here we go. It also does a little bit of armor strip. And then I didn't build up my full constellation here, but there we go. Level 200 Steel Path enemies just absolutely destroyed. We switch back over to Orion now, or to Sirius. I didn't even use Raw. That's how bad it is. This is the only thing with having your ability on your 1st, is you end up having to juggle your abilities a bit more, especially because you don't have that easy use on your 1st to build up your constellation. If you don't feel like replacing any of these with Helminth invocations, that's entirely up to you. It's not necessary, but, that's my choice. As for weapon loadout, yes, you're not really going to be using your weapons, which is why I personally have picked something a little bit more aesthetic. So with each one of the weapons, I decided, hey, wouldn't it be funny, because I've fashioned my warframes to be after Jade and Stalker respectively, wouldn't it be fun if each one of the weapons was in fact a gift or something that their parents used? So we have the Dread for primary, the Canter as secondary, and then finally the War Prime from Grandpa Hunhao, as well as, if you noticed, my Shade is a little sentient. He's just a little guy here to help. I'll show off the builds now. I apologize. They're nothing crazy. Some of them are a bit old. As, War Prime is very fun using it on its own. Yes, I did ram 2 sacrificial formers on here, but, why not? Why not? Just have fun with it. Hold on, let me show off the War, and then I will show off Shade. So here we go, here's the War. It's your basic just combo. It's your basic combo-based quick attack weapon. It's fun. Is it the best? Maybe not. Could it be better? Possibly. I'm missing them now. But, it is what it is. As for Shade, let me quickly hop over to Shade and make sure I show all of this off. Here's the Shade build. And finally, here's the Verglas Prime build for the priming. Now, if you are interested, I have my appearances here with the Colors of Pride, Classic. Believe this is Cherub, yep. More Colors of Pride. More Colors of Pride. Maybe the Pride palette's good. And this is Carvia. And now the attachments are the same. They've just been copied over. Same with the Saint Dana. It's just we have channel swapped. I believe it was these 2. switching this one for a light color and this one for the navy blue, which I will have to fix now, just because I think that blends in a bit better. Orion's a little bit more complicated. You leave the first two base and then classic saturated again, and then reds from cherub, classic saturated, and I believe this is cherub again, yes. Now for the attachments, you don't want anything because you want the Pakal stuff from the bundle that you can get based on the Stalker, which leaves it with this sentient color, much like how the Stalker had during the second dream. And then for the Sindana, we have just copied main colors. Wouldn't be attachment, it'd just be main colors. Good if you feel like giving it that kind of like sentient look. Main colors works just as well. And there we have it. That's the fashion, that's the build, that's the loadout. And I hope that people have fun with this build and enjoy nuking swathes of enemies at immensely over-the-top levels, as I sure as hell have been. The only issues I've encountered with this are in the Sanctuary, where Samaris gets mad if you use an ability too much. But hey, that's the experience of any caster Warframe in the Sanctuary. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe. I will be live on Twitch later on next week, maybe Monday or Tuesday. So if you have an interest in coming to see me grind out some more of the new stuff, maybe Stynex Prime, I'll have a Stynex Prime giveaway going on for channel points, I believe it is. If you want to participate, let me know. If you want to hop in the squad, I'm always open to that. But yeah, hope you enjoy, and I'll see you later.